Welcome to Code Savvy Presents, a podcast about computer science, technology, accessibility, and inclusion.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for reaching out and having me on. I'm Brian Skalak. I am with the REM5 team here in the Twin Cities. I, like a lot of people on our team, wear a number of hats. So anything from general marketing of our entertainment business to running some of our studios projects where we're building and creating for XR kind of across the board. And we'll get more into that later for sure. And then I'm also deeply kind of connected to our arts program as well. And that's where we know each other from previously. So how do we elevate and allow artists to utilize all of these new technologies and give them the tools to create, and then give them the space and the venue to actually showcase that work. So we get to do a lot of really fun stuff at REM5, all under one roof. So
that's awesome.
And I'm coming up on 3 years in October of being with REM5, which of course, 2 of those being more interesting than not. But I think I don't know, and we'll kind of talk about where that goes. But it's led to a lot of challenges. That has led to us looking at new and different technologies and how do we kind of continue to do all of our mission while pivoting as needed and kind of going with the flow and being able to utilize new technologies in new ways, basically.
Cool. So for people that are listening that might not know what XR or VR or AR or some of these acronyms are, can you give us the super science breakdown?
Yeah, I mean, Amir from our team, one of the co-founders of REM5, always likes to talk about how this industry is really good at making a lot of confusing jargon, basically, and we always talk about how there's a lot of buzzwords out there, which sometimes can be good to at least get it into mainstream consciousness, where you're hearing about metaverse and VR and AR, and I know this whole podcast is helping people learn and kind of debunk some of the differing information around them. So yeah, I mean, we're REM5 VR Lab, specifically focusing on virtual reality, but yet we've moved well beyond that, especially in the last couple of years. So yeah, for anyone who's not familiar, we have 8,000 square feet here in the Twin Cities, where we basically make high-end virtual reality accessible to everybody else by using it for a lot of entertainment. You can come in and eat pizza, drink beer, and try some really high-end virtual reality experiences. But we also work with schools to do education, and then we work with companies as well to get them thinking about how these technologies are going to change their business, not in the future, but actually today. So yeah, we definitely focus and have from the beginning have looked at a lot of in-headset experiences. So when we talk about virtual reality, for me at least, a lot of times that falls into 2 categories, and all of those is where you're going to have a headset on. Let me grab. There we go. I had to unplug. Let's see if I can show it here. So I've got one of those right here. This is an Oculus / Meta / Facebook Quest 2. There you go. You've got the Oculus as well. So yeah, a lot of times when we're thinking about virtual reality, it's either a completely computer generated world, which is probably what most people are used to when you're playing games and having fun. You're kind of you can be in a whimsical environment, fully immersed. And then kind of the other category is 360 video, which is really exciting because that gives people the opportunity to really democratize experiences and go travel the world, be inside of a factory tour, and I know you also have your set of cameras as well too. Mine got really dirty the other day because it fell into the mud. But so here's a 360 camera as we're looking at it, 2 lenses, so it can be capturing the entire world around you. So that's kind of 2 types of experiences that you can do in a headset. We also have been focusing a lot on augmented reality recently because smartphone adoption, right, is like a lot of other technologies, just basically trends towards 100%. In the last 10 years, actually, it's wild. We looked at a lot of trend charts recently. In the last 10 years, you look at 2012, smartphone adoption was maybe like sub 50%. Hovering around 50%, because a lot of that was, I could remember maybe I had like a Samsung S3 or something in 2012, which, I had connection to the internet, but that was like about it. You were definitely using a lot more Wi-Fi. You were maybe on 3G. And so now that everybody's getting a much higher end device in their pockets, It's really exciting because that's opening up a lot of more users to be able to use augmented reality, especially through a mobile device. So when we talk about AR, we're talking about how do you basically overlay a digital layer on top of the real world. So 98% of what people are used to is you open up Instagram and you're using filters, or you're using Snapchat filters, or filters on TikTok, which is actually a great way for people to become super aware of AR and not also, but maybe also not realize that they're using it every single day in their lives. But you can do a lot of really cool stuff with that. And again, everybody, generally speaking, is having these in their pockets. So when we demo,
so it's way more accessible.
Yep. When we demo AR with clients, we use Instagram a lot, just because that's kind of a main app that a lot of people also
super
have.
Familiar. Yeah.
Super familiar. And then there's also a lot of stuff you can do with a web-based AR, where I can just send you to a website, and just using your camera's phone, your phone's camera, camera phone, they're all the same thing.
It's all the same thing.
Just out of a web link, you can do AR experiences too, which means no download and you don't have to be logged into the Instagram space. So that's really nice as well, especially when it comes to more corporate clients. And again, when you're trying about just pure accessibility, that's been amazing. And that's just the last 3 years has just exploded with that. So VR, AR, kind of the two main technologies kind of in that bucket. And really, those are what 90% of people are going to be experiencing. And so that's kind of two buckets that we focus on a lot these days.
Can you briefly tell me maybe what that other 10% is? Like, what is the way out there stuff that like nobody's really adopted yet, that like you're seeing kind of on the horizon?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk about how, all of these technologies between AR and VR are eventually going to go to glasses. That's kind of what we can aspire to, and clearly it will. I mean, for me, it'll be interesting because I love being fully immersed, right? I mean, I think there's some really cool things that are happening with pass-through cameras on these devices, where you are starting to get that mixture of realities. But it is nice to be like, all right, I am in this world, and like that's what I'm focused on. So it'll be interesting to see where that kind of goes. I guess more near term, at our demos last week, we were using a HoloLens 2 from Microsoft, which, I mean, I tried one at my old work in like 2017, and like it blew my mind, right? I mean, so the HoloLens is from Microsoft. It's basically more of a wearable AR, where you're getting projected layers kind of right here in your glasses. You can still see the world around you. You can flip these up. You can like flip up your screens to be a much more present than kind of hopping in and out of like a fully confined headset.
Yeah.
And the problem with those, maybe not the problem, is just that they are pretty expensive still, right? Yeah. So when you're talking about a consumer grade item that's $300 versus a industrial level item that's $2,500, right? The adoption rate's just not going to quite be there. But we demoed that last week. We showed people the same experience that I tried 5 years ago, and it still blows your mind, because what it's able to do is actually scan the world around you and create things. Like, so I forget the name of the program, but like, all right, it knows there's a wall there, and it has robots break through that wall, and you have to like dodge them, and there's lasers coming out. And so having that mix with what is the physical world around you is still amazing 5 years later, right? So kind of the use case we look at a lot is there's some local groups here, Spectar, especially, that uses AR on construction sites. So now you're there, and you've got touch points, and you can do millimeter accuracy. You can see where walls go, where pipes are supposed to go, and so that, for you're doing $100 million build, that's kind of like of course we're gonna adopt that. And so that's where it starts to get interesting, with these super high level technologies being used on what may be thought of as like a non-technology site. You're like, all right, we just need to build something, right? We got hammers and nails and boards and stuff, and that industry is changing rapidly, right? Because they don't have room for error. You can't redo something. You got to make sure it's safe, and so that's really something quite exciting to see. Clearly, we don't we don't play a lot in that space, but it's great to know other companies that are here locally that are doing really cool stuff there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So can you tell me a little bit about like some of the platforms or software that is used in the production of these assets, or like making a virtual world or creating the layers that go into AR? Like, can you give a little background on that?
Yeah, for sure. So some of the main tools for creating, especially for VR, right, for an in-headset, either mostly probably a game experience. And I will speak high level to these because I have not quite developed my skills yet for it. But
Okay.
the Unity and Unreal engines are kind of the two main platforms that we would say, hey, if you want to learn how to develop games for VR or experiences for VR, you're going to want to use one of those platforms. That's kind of the very high level. There's also a lot of like 3D modeling software. So, right, you have to make the assets that you're then going to put in the game. And so you could be using Blender, Maya. I mean, there's a whole range of them. So that's kind of the big thing, is finding out like, all right, what do you want this experience to be, and how are you going to get the pieces to actually place them into the world, and then use the game engine to basically drive those interactions, and then that final experience for people. So those are the two kind of main engines there. As far as AR goes, if you're developing for social media, right? So either Instagram or Snapchat in particular, there is Spark AR and Lens Studio. So Spark AR is with Instagram and Facebook to create filters for those platforms, and then Lens Studio is the Snapchat basically application. So you can pull that, and you can actually have that on your desktop, create on desktop, and then send to your phone for testing or for publishing, which is really cool. Because for me, it's like, if I'm not native enough to this device to be like, I want to sit here and really build something out. I'd love to do it on desktop and then push it to mobile.
Transfer it. Yeah.
And then probably the other big one in the AR category is Eighth Wall. They're the ones who do a lot of just out of the browser. Here's a web link, and you can run an AR experience out of there. I believe that one requires a lot more coding. Like, there's a lot you can do with it, but it's not as plug and play. Because Facebook and Snapchat are basically, they want millions of people creating, right? That's the tools that they want to empower their users with, which is really cool, right? I mean, you could sit down and make a filter in an hour with no experience. And especially with how good tutorials are getting on the internet, it's kind of just up to you if that's a path that as an artist or just a creator you want to go down. Like, those doors are incredibly open, which is exciting.
Awesome. Thank you. That's super helpful. And there was an experience that you all kind of tested the other day, which was the browser-based environment. Tell me a little bit more about that, and kind of what you all are testing and like looking to do in that kind of, like, I'm assuming it's kind of like for virtual meeting or event space. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that kind of drives us into the M word, the metaverse category, if you will. And I mean, I think you can look at that more holistically as how technologies are bringing people together. But a lot of people today really think of it as a number of things, mostly involving a couple pieces, right? It's a perpetual space on the internet that's connected, so you can socialize in it. And for us, it's really about accessibility. So we've been building these right out of the browser. And for me, really thinking about it as the next iteration of the internet, right, is that there will be a lot more three-dimensional web pages rather than flat web pages very quickly here, right? So you can think a lot about how 10 years ago, I know, right, maybe neither of us had our own website. 5 years ago, we had our own website because Wix, Squarespace, Weebly, all these companies were like, hey, no code, plug and play, and now you're up and you have a published spot, right? Just like social media gave you the tools to create worlds, and so, or create pages and for business and driving community. The next iteration of that is like, how do you enter a website in 3D, experience it with others in real time, have spatial audio content, and really make a more immersive experience than you can out of just a one-dimensional, two-dimensional, but like one directional website. So what we're doing, and especially as part of the pandemic, so let's take it back. It's February of 2020. Chrome browser had started building in the ability to experience three-dimensional sites right out of a browser, right? So that's already now a big step, is that you don't need to download anything extra, and you don't need to be running really any extra or a gaming laptop or any crazy hardware, right? The browser's getting good enough to develop these worlds. And so we're super excited about that, because we're like, wow, now we can expand beyond an experience that has to be in a headset for a number of reasons. One, headset adoption is plucking along. We interact with a lot of users that don't have VR at home per se. And so we're like, great, if they can just get onto a website from a laptop, something that everybody is super used to, we should look into that. Fast forward 4 months, we're in the early thick of the pandemic. A lot of meetings, a lot of meetups have shut down, and we're definitely not putting headsets on people anymore, right? So it dawns on us that these types of experiences out of a browser that can be a value add in a lot of cases to making a traditional web page is super exciting, right? So we basically tripled down on that and start developing out the use cases of immersive web experiences. So when I really just high level, when I talk about this, and we can even like link out some videos, or we can send some examples, or invite people to future meetups. Just like you go to facebook.com and you have your feed, we're creating websites where you'll go in, you'll create an avatar, and you'll be able to move around just like you're in a museum experience, just like you're in a building, right? And interact with other avatars. So social right out of the web browser. And so as we started building that out, really talking to a lot of companies, figuring out, because everybody's trying to reset right early on.
Right.
And we look at this as something as not being just a solve for the pandemic, but this is actually looking much further for the future of your brand and for your web experience. And so kind of our biggest example was that we built out a space for the Minnesota Twins. This would have been January of 2021 when we launched it, and we were probably talking to them end of 2020. And what they wanted to do, just for example, they were going to have a big in-person event talking about their Hall of Fame players, all this memorabilia, these stories, these images, right? They've got a bunch of stuff, and they want to show it to people. They want to share it with the fans. Well, as we all remember, November of 2020 was like another, the second wave or whatever.
Spike,
and so, they definitely had to both cancel their in-person, but then they wanted to pivot, right? So in talking with them, it's like, how can we create an experience to reach all of your fans in this very big geography from North Dakota to Wisconsin to Iowa? They couldn't actually travel here for that. And also all the pandemic things going on. And so what we did was basically we created a 3D web environment where you would hop in, you would get to put on a Twins jersey from throughout the decades. So you had a really cool avatar. And then you had basically what would be a $50 million Twins museum that we built out online.
Just to walk through.
Right. When you're building something digitally, right, virtually, there's no physics, there's no boundaries. So like we had baseballs flying in the sky, we had video rooms you could go into, and then we had all these photos from over the years and all these stats and just like fun stuff for the fans, right? So I think even most of the season that year, there was no fans in the seats, right? It was this whole thing. So not only was it a COVID thing, but now it built out the Twins as being the first team in all of professional sports to do this. So they were both trailblazing and also setting themselves up as having this Metaverse XR brand into the future. So that was really fun. And kind of the part of that that's like such a wild moment was that we held a press conference inside of it, right? So we invited press out, and then two of their former all-stars to meet up with us in the space, right? So me and Amir are like in there trying to troubleshoot or like talk through people or just help kind of guide things, but then everybody hops in. We make it super easy to use. So we had 75-year-old sports journalists who have covered the Twins for 4 decades,
Right.
to two of their all-stars just on their phones halfway across the country.
That's so
I was
cool.
zooming around and telling stories about when they used to play. And so that was a very light bulb moment for us, being like, wow,
Yeah.
you can have super exclusive access and meetups, and the fact that we're in there with some of the Hall of Famers was just super cool. So that was pretty
Well,
wild.
it really just breaks down all the barriers to connection and
Yep.
and community, really.
Mhm.
And it changes the sense of what that is and lets you kind of define it for yourself and create cool space. So
I mean, and
that's
that's,
awesome.
yeah, and that's the long-winded backstory, but it does help set up to like why we're so intrigued by this type of environment.
Yeah.
So over the last 6 months, we've been working with a developer on our team who's using Unity, like I mentioned earlier,
Yep.
to build using 3D modeling, right? We kind of have a dev tag team, right? We make a 3D model that looks really nice, bring it into the game engine, right? Where basically all of this lives. And then we publish it, and people like yourself can come and hop in when we have
Test
meetups.
it.
So yeah, so our new platform is called Simulacra. That's a name we came up with like for the first art gallery we did in the space, and it just has stuck with, and it feels fitting. And really, it's the future for digital brands, right? We're building 3D web spaces, metaverse spaces, but we're also, you can tie in AR, you can tie in NFTs and blockchain, which maybe we don't want to have to go down that road on this call, but there's just a lot you can do. And so as we have this ecosystem, there's all these pieces of the puzzle that can add up. So our new, Amir calls it the Ferrari engine, right? Like we can do a lot with this right out of the web browser. So it's super high fidelity. We're making even better content. More users can be in the space. I think at one point we had 35, 40 of us during the first play test at one time. And we're looking to do up to 100, which is awesome, right? That kind of gets you into like you can really
real
host
event.
an event in here versus, we were kind of sticking to about 20 before. And that will all just grow as connectivity, 5G, all of this stuff gets better, right? That's just going to pull up all of the ability we have in these spaces. So that's super fun. That's what we're really excited about right now as we kind of build the case for how do you create metaverse and kind of social environments that are just for non-gamers, for non-techies, because that's what REM5 is all about, right? It's like, how do we meet middle America where they are, right? You can do stuff that's super flashy and everything out on the coast, but we don't have that luxury here, right? We want to help make things super accessible and very easy for people to use. Otherwise, it doesn't get used, right? We talk about creating with purpose, basically, right? Which sounds like everything should be done with purpose, but a lot of stuff is done for hype and for flash, and we want to build experiences that people actually use for a number of reasons, right? So we've been doing our play test in an art gallery, for example, right? So you can hop in, you're with other people, you're checking out. These are NFT pieces for now, but you could imagine it being, we've done digital galleries with local artists here in the Twin Cities. And then also utilizing these spaces for training, DEI, which we're really excited about. And then we're kind of working on our new home world that's going to be like, the everything, right? There's going to be music in there. There's going to be a ton more art, 3D sculpture garden.
Cool.
And so it's going to be really fun. We're hoping to kind of get that one all shined up in about a month here. So we have a lot of the assets, and now it's just kind of
putting everything in place,
turning it, putting it all back together. But I mean, there's a ton of use cases for it, and it's really exciting, and it's really just level setting with brands and users. Like, this is out there, this is possible, because even today, right, very small amount of people have been to a 3D environment out of a web browser, right? There's a lot of people playing Roblox, there's a lot of people using Minecraft, and that's fine, but that's for a different audience. That's much more difficult to use, and we love to compare and contrast against that, because we're trying to build something basically for adults. It's a metaverse that's simplified, because not everybody needs all these flashing things on the screen, right? You want to be in there to socialize and really to like take in content at the end of the day.
Right. Right. So can you give people listening some advice on how they might get started engaging with those kind of environments? Or like, is it
Mhm.
attending, tests with you all? Are there meetups happening? Like
Yeah.
what kind of community is building around that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great opportunity for a quick plug here. So we're hosting meetups every second and fourth Wednesday at, I believe, 2 p.m. So what we wanted to do is basically like, right, put these on the calendar, plant these flags so that we can, just invite people out, right? Like it's free, there's no download, there's nothing to log into. So if you go to simulacra.com simulacra.io
IO. Yeah.
slash playtest, that's kind of our standing web page where there's a link there, you can hop in and join us during those times. What we've really found out is that, yeah, these places can exist, 24/7, which is really nice, right? Like if you're in Japan and want to hop in while you're awake, that's fine. Like it'll be open and exist. But creating events and giving people a reason to show up with other people, like that's how you drive the utilization of these spaces. So that's what's been really important to us. So as we build out these play tests and these meetups, um, we're just giving a reason every 2 weeks to come in. We can talk about what's going on in the metaverse realm. We can talk about fun stuff that we're seeing in some of our newsletters. We can talk about, a lot of times Matt, our developer, will be in there talking about more of the logistics of like how he's putting stuff together, what's kind of on our roadmap. He's recently built out a new way to experience 360 images inside of this experience. So now
Ooh,
you've entered a 3D environment, and then now you can actually go and then pop into a full 360-degree photo.
you're blowing
It's
my
all
mind, dude.
coming full circle here, right? So all of
Right?
these technologies are kind of playing together. So we can have anything from, in our DEI space, we have a 360 photo from George Floyd Square that you
Yeah.
can pop into, which is super powerful, especially for people who can't come here,
Come
right?
here. Yeah.
Whether it's travel restriction or just literally it's expensive to fly right now.
Yeah.
So that's super cool, very empowering to be able to see that. All the way to doing these demos for Red Wing, you can go through. We've got a full Red Wing environment where you can look at shoes, both from a casual standpoint to their work product as well. And then you go out on the balcony and you can actually pop into a 360 experience that I took with this camera at their factory. They've got this big like drying rack where they basically put the bottom of the shoes on and they
Oh,
all just sit
wow.
there and like heat up. And I just stuck my camera in there, and you can't do that otherwise,
Yeah,
right?
right. Like
So
you personally could not stick your head in there and
yeah.
experience that.
And
So
I haven't been, I didn't get scolded for that one. So that's good. Got the camera on the stick, you just pop it in there, which is, it comes full circle back to like 360 can democratize these experiences. We can also
right.
take those assets and put them in, again, a super accessible way to do that. So that was a ramble around
It's super
classically,
cool.
but
Yeah.
like, yeah, to get started, I mean, I don't know quite what the age range of listeners are. It's probably all over the board, but
All over
there's
the
probably a
place.
lot of the younger listeners and younger coders who are playing Roblox and Minecraft already, which is a
Yep.
great start. There's also a ton of really cool creator tools that you can use to create your own worlds and your own environments. We've been running Minecraft camps actually at REM5, where 6 to 13-year-olds are coming in and learning a lot of the coding and commands that'll actually allow them to not just build their world, but actually build interactivity in their world. One of the kids made this like crazy roller coaster inside of it, and another kid, it was a dungeon crawler with there's a pit full of zombies. I mean, which is great because
Nice.
it gives you the ability to play other people's environments, find
Yeah.
out the things you like to do, and then put them into practice. So, those are the kids that are going to become the builders of tomorrow, which is
Right.
really cool for us, right? We get to help train them in, help them learn new skills, just like you all are.
Yeah.
And those worlds are all going to combine super quickly. So that all translates really well. And the skills you pick up there will eventually translate to 3D modeling, which will eventually translate to building in Unity. And those are that's kind of that stack that
Yeah.
starts to get you into being able to publish these web environments just like we are.
That's really cool. lastly, let's just tell people how they can get in touch with you. What's the best way to, besides
Yeah.
just showing up to the immersive environment? How can they follow your work?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can hit me up directly at brian@rem5vr.com. Shoot me an email, whatever you're interested in. I can help link out or make sure you kind of have the right path forward to learn more about what we're doing from an entertainment standpoint. If you are a company looking to get super smart on all these technologies, what I think we talked about a little bit before we went live on the air is that we love to do that, right? We want to bring in, whether you're Fortune 500 or you are right, a local startup who just knows that these tools are coming and they can be utilized today and into the future. Hit us up for sure on that. And then kind of lastly, we send out a newsletter. So whether you've been to REM5 just to come and do some VR, you're probably in our system already, but you can reach out to me and I can get you on our newsletter, because we're sending out basically a lot of fun stuff that we're doing, whether we have anything from new games at REM5 to updates about what we're doing on our metaverse platform, all the way to special events, film fest, music events, art events at our space that basically can't be experienced anywhere else. That'll be the best place to kind of get all that. But yeah, feel free to just hit me up, because we're always looking for, we get a lot of inbound interest and we just want to be super helpful in whatever way we can for the local, national, international communities that want to connect and are excited about what we're doing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brian. It's been really fun talking about this stuff with you, and I appreciate everything that you all are doing. So,
no, thank you for having me. We're super excited. It's been a wild ride, but the future, I mean, right, the future just keeps coming. So we're here for it. We're here for it, and we want to continue to grow our skills and then just empower everybody else to have these experiences.
Code Savvy Presents is produced by Code Savvy, a 501c3 nonprofit organization committed to making computer science accessible. Visit us at www.codesavvy.org.